This is Harrison Moss with Harrison Moss Music. It's definitely been a minute, back with a tutorial for you today. This is another Professor Longhair arrangement called Every Day I Have the Blues. I'm going to show you the groove I just played. For those of you who aren't familiar, Professor Longhair is a legend in New Orleans rhythm and blues piano. He infused a lot of Afro-Caribbean and Latin rhythms into his music. Let's get started. First, I'm going to show you the form of the song. This is a 12-bar blues in the key of G. We have 1 bar in G, 1 bar in C, followed by 2 bars in G. Then we have 2 bars of C, 2 bars of G. Then, lastly, 1 bar of D, 1 bar of C, a bar of G, and a bar of D. Don't have to remember that. I'll put that all in the description so you have that just so you can follow along. First, we're going to start with the left hand. I'm going to show you a couple different patterns that are used in this particular song. The main pattern goes like this. Okay, as mentioned, we're in the key of G. This is the 1 chord. So you can see the first 2 notes, low G to high G. We have an octave spread. And the point I wanted to make on this is you'll notice that when I play it, I'm not releasing my pinky until I play the 3rd note. In this case, it's a B. The reason why I hold it down and I don't release it right when I play the 2nd note is because it provides a nice harmonic cushion or foundation while I play other notes in the right hand. You release that pinky too soon, it sounds a little bit thin. Compared to sounds much fuller, a little bit more rich. So just make sure you hold that pinky down. Okay, so those are the first 2 notes. That's the next set of notes. So B, D, D, B, D. And you'll notice these notes are swung, they're not straight. Apply the same pattern to C, okay? So we see the notes, C, C, E, G, G, E, G. So the E and the G here, they're the 3rd and the 5th of the C major chord. If we're playing that pattern in G, it's B and D. So 3rd and the 5th. We're just applying that pattern on G to C. But when we get to the 5 chord, the D major, something interesting happens. Instead of playing the major 3rd, he plays the minor 3rd. Professor Longhair does this a lot in a lot of his arrangements where he plays the minor 3rd in his left hand and the major 3rd in his right. Creates a lot of interesting contrast and sounds. So in this case, he's playing the F as the minor 3rd instead of the F sharp, which would be the major 3rd. You could play the major 3rd too, but I think the minor 3rd sounds better, more interesting. So now I'm just going to play the left hand at time. To the G. Now, what are we doing in the right hand? So we're going to place our hand, our thumb and our pinky, pretty much between these two Ds. D is the fifth of the key of G major, which is the key that we're in. And this hand position is really common in a lot of New Orleans songs. It's a very Latin sound. And this hand position is mostly where we'll play our comping and chords. So the basic structure, basic chord, we're playing a G major inverted with the fifth on the bottom, D on the bottom, D on the top. So you can see if we take this, we're just playing a G major, just inverted, with octaves. And we're popping it, accenting. It's not flat, it's a pop. You'll notice with the rhythm, it's being played on beats 2 and 4 on the downbeats. Very common in New Orleans music. 2, 4, 2, 4. And that's the feel that you want to get throughout this groove. Now, when we move to the C chord, or the 4 chord, chord comes on the same beats with the same rhythm as the G, but we're changing the voicing or the arrangement of notes for this particular chord. So in the right hand, we're playing the 3rd, 5th, flat 7, and the 9th. So this really is a C dominant 9th chord. Back to the G. Now when we get to the 5 chord, the D major, the voicing changes again. Remember our minor 3rd in the left hand? Our voicing in the right hand is root, 3rd, major 3rd, I'll point out, 5th, and flat 7. Notice timing-wise, the minor 3rd and the major 3rd are far apart on the keys, but it creates an interesting clash. Now, in terms of the timing and how to align the hands, you'll notice the first chord pop comes between the space or the gap that is created with the left hand pattern. Pop! Pop! So in a way, it's filling in the gaps, so you're not playing anything in the left hand and you're following up with a right hand chord pop. Now the second chord pop in the measure comes when you play that B, or the 3rd, if we're on the G major chord. So you want to practice that so you align the hands. So the first time, you're not playing any left hand note with that chord pop. The second time, you're playing the 3rd. Applying that same thing to the C, dominant 9th. Let's go down to the 5. Okay, now that you've got the basic groove, I encourage you to play a few times, play it with the metronome so you get the timing down right. So with those basic ingredients, you can create a nice groove. I'll play it through. Now, what can you add to this to make it a little bit more interesting? You notice in the first time that I played it in the demonstration, I added and threw in a few things that Professor Longhair does in the original recording. Recommend listening to his London concert version. That's one of my favorite versions, but you can hear it in his others as well. So first thing, instead of doing a chord pop, he does this riff here. These three notes, 5th, 6th, root. And he just goes up, walk up the stairs just like that, instead of the second chord pop. And he can use, and he does use that across all chords in the song. So on the G, so he always plays the chord pop first in the measure, and then he plays that riff. The riff's not as accented or as loud as the chord pop. Creates a nice contrast and loudness and sound. So you play a big chord, a 4-note chord pop, followed by a nice, little bit quieter 3-note riff. So interestingly, he also plays this on the 5 chord. So it works essentially on any chord in the song. Now, what else can you do to spice up the song? You'll also notice in the demonstration, I played a transition from the G to the C, or the 1 to the 4 chord. What does that sound like? So for that transition, I'm just going to play it. So I'll start on the C. What was that? Okay. You'll notice first in my left hand, I changed up the left hand pattern. So instead of the kind of the rocking left hand, it changes to what's called a shuffle. Or the chop, I've heard it called as well. So it's a 2-note chord, G and the D, root 5th, root 6th, again, it's swung, it's not straight. Then the pattern goes back to the regular pattern. So what am I doing in the right hand? So basically, I'm just outlining, you can see the notes here, a G major chord, root, 3rd, 5th, back to the root. And he does something interesting. This is a common technique he does. He rocks quickly back and forth on the octaves. You also might notice he holds down the pedal. Create a nice ringing sound as he goes up, and then he returns to the original pattern. So I'll play it slow. And you'll hear in the recording, he crescendos. He goes from medium loud to louder. He increases the volume. Now, third way you could spice this up is through the turnaround that he does at the end to reset the song or reset the progression. So he uses this progression a lot throughout a lot of his other songs, or rather this turnaround. So I'll play in the right hand, it comes on the G major chord. All right, what is he doing there? So essentially he's going from the 1 to the 5. And it signals to the listener that this is the end of the 12 bars of the blues, and we're about to reset. So change is coming. So, first, essentially in thumb on the G, G, B, flat, D. riff's very common in blues. And if I'm hearing the recording right, he plays that G on the bottom every time. So he's going up kind of in thirds. B flat D, B D, C. That's the first set. Then he does a slide, an up slide from the B flat to the B, minor third to a major third. Then here's some interesting fingering. He lifts back up on the B. Then he rolls down B, A, D, E. So it's lift up. Happens pretty fast. You have to slow down the recording to get this, but that's what he does. And then he comes down again with his thumb. Okay, again. So play it in time with the left hand. If you have any questions, folks, let me know. If you enjoyed this and would like to hear other tutorials on Professor Longhair or any blues or any other song, let me know. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.